I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. 551.074 to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel. 551.076 to discuss safety personnel pursuant to intruder detection security audits, and 551.0821 regarding student pursuant to update regarding 551.0821. And the time is 5:31.
Trying to get it up before, but y'all are too.
The board will now convene into open session, and the time is 6:20. On behalf of the trustees, I would like to welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Northeast Independent School Board. This is a business meeting of the board held in public. We appreciate your attendance and request your respectful attention. We welcome your comments during the Matters from the Floor section of the agenda. If you signed up to address a specific action agenda item, you will be called at that time. We wish to emphasize that this is a business meeting of the board, and while those in attendance may disagree about issues, it is our expectation that everyone will conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner. Disruptions to this meeting by anyone will not be tolerated. In the event any person or group disrupts the meeting, a warning will be given to stop any disruptive behavior. Anyone persisting in disruptive behavior will be removed from the meeting. The board may also call a recess in the event of persistent disruption so that individuals who engage in disruptions can be removed. It is our intent to conduct the meeting in an orderly fashion. Finally, I would like to remind you that it is the mission of Northeast to challenge and encourage each student to achieve and demonstrate academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship. Item 5, Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. A, Tejeda Middle School, Ms. Reyes.
Good evening, Madam President Grona and members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. It is my pleasure to present to you two Tejeda Timberwolves to share the invocation and pledge with you all tonight. I'd like to introduce Maria Goncalves Falk Paligi. She is an 8th grade student at Tejeda Middle School, and she is president of the National Junior Honor Society, a member of the Peer Assistance Leadership member, student council member, and Young Historians member. She is a 3-year band member and band council. She has participated in 7th and 8th grade athletic program. She's been a member of the 7th and 8th grade band region program. She was a 2022 Silver Star Award winner for leadership, a 2021 Social Studies and Math Honors Department winner, and she proudly represents our school as the school mascot, Timber. She has participated in these wonderful activities, all while maintaining a straight A 3-year honor roll. And Maria is here tonight with her parents, Ricardo and Ana Paligi, her grandmother, Sonia, her godmother, Juliana, and her cousin, Carolina. So at this time, let me ask Maria's family to please stand to be recognized. Thank you. It is also my honor to introduce Brooklyn Watney, our 8th grade student at Tejeda. And Brooklyn is a student council president, and she's a 3-year student council member. She's a 3-year choir and choir council member. She's a 3-year theater and theater officer. She's a 2-year dance student, a 7th grade athlete, a 3-year A honor roll, the 2022 Silver Star Award winner for citizenship, the 2022 English Department Award winner, and she was also our school mascot, Timber, last school year. These two young ladies are quite remarkable. Brooklyn has done all of this while participating in wonderful activities and maintaining her all-year, 3-year A honor roll. And Brooklyn is here tonight with her family, her parents, Nick and Anna Watney. So at this time, let me ask Brooklyn's family to please stand and be recognized. So again, it is my honor to present both of these students as they rise and approach the podium. And they are going to lead us in the invocation and also the pledges. And I thank their families for entrusting them to Northeast ISD and Tejeda Middle School for their educational experiences. So Maria and Brooklyn, please approach the podium.
Good evening. Thank you for attending the first board meeting of the new year, 2024. In a world where we ask for so much, I ask that you pause and join me in thanking our school board, who play a major role in guiding our school district to be one of the best in the San Antonio area. Those who mold our district to fit into the changes of the education system, those who have impacted my life as well as the lives of many other NEISD students. We would like to take a moment to appreciate and recognize your patience, your guidance, and the many hours of time you have contributed to the district. I myself, being someone who was not born in the States, who has seen and lived through other education systems, I know that what we have here at NEISD is like no other. That being said, I would like to share with you a quote by Marlon Rico Lee. "The things you take for granted, someone else is praying for." This was really meaningful to me because I know that not everyone has a safe learning environment, and that the goals and values the school board has prioritized, such as, and I quote, "NEISD will provide and maintain a safe, supportive, and equitable learning environments for our students. These efforts are felt by me in my day-to-day school life and by the other 58,000 NEISD students. These values that allow our schools to have outstanding extracurricular classes, the values that allow our students that allow for a safe learning environment, and most importantly, allow for equal learning opportunities amongst all students." So I leave you here today with a promise. I promise to not let the passion and time that you, our spectacular school board here at NEISD, put into our education and well-being go unnoticed. Your efforts are the reason students like myself can have opportunities to learn, grow, and become proactive citizens of society. In honor of School Board Recognition Month, we thank you, Northeast School Board. Thank you for maintaining your values and striving for student success. Please rise for the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Brooklyn and Maria, if you'll come forward, we have certificates and we'd like to take a picture. Ms. Reyes, if you'll join us. Okay, y'all are welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go. Okay, sounds like y'all are really busy. Okay, thank you. Now keep up that GPA. But thank y'all for being here. Thank you, everyone. Item 6, recognition. A, President's remarks on acknowledgement of special calendar events. Tomorrow is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. So if you see one of our officers, please thank them for what they do. Thank you, Chief. And then February 5th through the 9th is National School Counseling Week. And we announce that now because our meeting in February will be after that. So those are all of the special calendar events. Item 7, matters from the floor. The trustees welcome comments from members of the public during this time of the meeting. Generally, board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, although members may request further information or a future agenda item on a matter raised during public comment. As explained fully in the board's written procedures for this time, the matters from the floor portion is a limited public forum. Accordingly, speakers may present on a topic related to district business for up to 3 minutes, but are not permitted to make 1, personal complaints about an individual staff or board member that should be raised using the district's grievance policies, 2, a personnel action, 3, a student disciplinary matter, 4, a complaint about a particular student, 5, or pending litigation. Any person who persists in speaking on these topics after being directed not to do so will lose the remainder of their time to speak and may lose their privilege of addressing the board at future meetings. If you signed up to speak on a specific agenda item, you will be called up when the board reaches that item. Please remember that this is a business meeting of the board. Any person or group engaging in outbursts of any kind causing a disruption to the meeting will be warned, and if they persist, will be removed from the meeting. This is to ensure that all speakers have an opportunity to make comments without interruption and that the board members are able to pay full attention to speakers without any distractions. We also welcome written comments at any time, either through email at board@neisd.net or by mail, care of the Superintendent's Office at 8961 Tesoro Drive, 6th floor, San Antonio, Texas, 78217. Ms. Huey.
Number 1.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Gervin Hawkins, and I'm the state representative of District 120. Thank you, Madam Chair and other board members, allowing me to speak this evening. You know, I rise to speak today about this vacant seat that worries me and our community tremendously. Now, I'm well aware that the community has showed up and there's been several board meetings discussing this issue. But I wanted to come personally to really talk to the board members about this issue that's impacting our community and why this seat is such an embarrassment to Northeast ISD. As I see these young people here today talk about the talent and the greatness, my concern is that's not reflected in that vacant seat over there. So I come to you really this evening to share with you the travesty that's being created by the seat being vacant. It shows a total level of disrespect for the deceased individual. It shows a total level of disrespect to the community. It shows a total level of disrespect to the African American community. And it shows a total level of disrespect for the issues that are needed to be addressed in the district. I ask you tonight, reconsider your position on this. And the reason I ask you this is because I know for a fact that Northeast is one of the most diverse districts in this county. And we need to be able to address all issues of all students. And I would ask you to consider, if for some reason you weren't able to be in your seat, would you want it to be vacant? Would you want your seat to be vacant and your thoughts and the absence of you not being present? Tonight, I wanted to put you all on notice that the concern is greater than you'll ever know. I get that concern as being on the Texas Education Agency Special Education Select Committee. And we talk about things associated with our school boards and what's happening in our district. As we seek funding, as we seek opportunity and programming, all the things that each board is indulging in is being taken into consideration. And I would say tonight, reconsider your position. I have taken this on as a crusade, that indeed we will explore every legal method.
I'm sorry, Representative, but your time is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Number 2.
Hello, my name is Ray Cardenas. I started as a volunteer in October and have quickly realized how much impact one person can make in his community. Bringing smiles to little kids' faces and hearts is a medicine that cures the soul. the more that I've been around schools, the more things that I see that break my heart. I see barriers to education, and it has challenged me to my core to stand up for my community when others cannot. I want to give the kids in my community and my neighborhood any advantage possible. I feel like it is my civic duty, and it has become my responsibility. Question me all you want. One thing you cannot question is my heart. From the issues that I've noticed, I feel that the need to question you all and check the status of your hearts has become very apparent to me. From what I have seen personally, I do not know how any of you can honestly look me in the face and tell me that the services you are providing to my community are fair and equitable. I can assure you that they are not. I've provided some of the NEISD leadership with concrete examples of why I feel my community is being neglected, and I expect it to change. Ms. Villarreal, I don't know if you're seriously taking how seriously you're taking my concerns, but about your district. But my message to you is, if you're not up to doing the job that you've signed up to do, then move out of the way so somebody else can. I'm a data-driven person, and I am currently working on acquiring more information beyond just some of my personal experiences. Do not dismiss my words as just someone who likes to complain. I'm not afraid of putting in the hard work to get things done. I'm looking forward to the next meeting in order to give everyone an update of the progress I've made in my community.
Thank you.
And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Item 8, matters from executive session. A, personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. Possible action regarding routine personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments. A, Executive Director of Special Education. Do I have a motion to approve as discussed in executive session?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item 2, possible action regarding proposed recommendation for termination of Chapter 21 term contract employee. Do I have a motion to approve as discussed in executive session?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item 9, presentations. A, intruder detection audit. Dr. Micah.
Thank you, Madam President. As we discussed in executive session, we had 4 door audits since the last meeting. Of those 4, 3 were clean. There was a finding, and that finding, as I explained to you all, was addressed immediately.
Thank you. Item B, state of the BTA report. Ms. Weissmueller.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. I'm Debbie Weissmueller, the NEISD Council of PTA's president. I would like to take a minute to recognize and introduce some of the Council PTA officers and chairs that are here with us tonight. Sarah Patterson, our 4th VP Communications. Lisa Thompson, our Blossom Scholarship Chair. Karen Lennertz, our Mentor Chair. Lucy Reyna, our Healthy Lifestyles Chair. And Katie Brown, our Parliamentarian. As part of Texas PTA's criteria to earn an Outstanding Council PTA Platinum Award, Council must attend a school board meeting and present a State of the Council report. Our Council has been working hard to achieve this distinction, and we hope you'll find this report informative. The NEISD Council of PTAs is a group of dedicated volunteers working to make a difference for all children. Our goal is that everything we do is in support of our PTA mission, to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. As a council PTA, our purpose is to act as the primary channel of communication within our PTA network to provide information, inspiration, support, and guidance to our member PTAs. Our council serves to strengthen local PTAs, develop leadership potential, promote PTA membership, and advance our Texas PTA goals, programs, and initiatives. Our PTA year began on July 1st. On July 21st to 23rd, 13 of our council board members, along with 45 of our local NEISD PTA leaders, traveled to Dallas for our annual Texas PTA launch. This is a weekend where our Texas PTA annual meeting is held. It's also filled with training and networking opportunities. This year, we had the great privilege to witness the installation of one of our very own amazing PTA leaders, Jennifer Easley, as Texas PTA president. And we want to thank Dr. Micah and Mrs. Grona for joining us to be part of that installation process. As an association, we hold meetings 5 times each school year. During these meetings, we share timely information, focus on promoting Texas PTA's Back the Future message, recognize local membership award accomplishments, and highlight successful and innovative local PTA programs through our Council Spotlight on Awards. 2 of these meetings have already been held: September, where we presented our goals and activities for the year, and November, where the district recognized the top volunteers from last school year. At our January meeting, Dr. Michael will share his State of the District message. In March, we will present Virgil T. Blossom scholarships, and April will feature our local membership awards. We have provided and will continue to hold numerous trainings on helpful topics which are relevant to our local PTAs, including officer responsibilities, membership, and committee chair trainings. The 5th class of our Connections Leadership Development Program has completed their course in November, and we're excited to start a new leadership book club this spring semester to offer continued opportunities for learning and growth. Our mentor team has been working with all the local PTAs to address their specific questions and needs, and I'm proud to announce that as of this fall, the PTA at Clear Spring has completed the recharter process, so our council is now back to 67 PTAs strong. And that is a PTA on each campus in Northeast. And they have all completed their standards of continuing affiliation requirements, and so 100% are in good standing with Texas PTA already this year. Currently, our council-wide membership stands at 16,234 members, which puts us 90% of the way to our goal of 18,032 members. Our local PTAs are doing an excellent job sharing the PTA message and promoting membership. Council helps our local PTAs to increase their membership with our community membership program, where we currently have 43 community heroes who have contributed 522 memberships to our local PTAs. We appreciate those school board members and any ISD executive staff that have joined us as community heroes this year. Advocacy is one of the pillars of PTA, and our membership is the strength of our voice. From Rally Day in February through the numerous special sessions this year we have that have followed, we remain steadfast in our advocacy efforts, and we have been busier than ever ensuring that our voice continues to be heard. Our upcoming major council events include the International Student Exchange Breakfast, where we hope to see you all on January 26th. This is a heartwarming event where the exchange students across our district share about their experiences here in America and how it differs from their home countries. On February 1st, Council will host the annual Founders Day celebration at Johnson High School, where we honor this year's recipients of Texas Life Membership Awards, Extended Service Awards, as well as National PTA Lifetime Achievement Awards. We'll be hosting a watch party for the Texas PTA Straight Talk event, Navigating the Smartphone Era, on February 12th, which will be a live stream event followed by a panel discussion with local resources. Council Reflections Awards will be presented at a ceremony on February 27th at Eisenhower Middle School. And we will award 7 more high school seniors as this year's class of Blossom Scholarship recipients at our delegate meeting on March 19th. We currently have 24 students still on scholarship and pursuing their degrees in education who we will hope will come back and join Northeast again one day. We also plan to host candidate forums for the May elections, with those details still to be determined. The last thing I'd like to share with you tonight is some information about our Closed Closet program. This month, the Closed Closet celebrates its 7th anniversary. The program has grown tremendously over that time, from the first semester of operation in spring of 2017, where 150 students were served, to the most recent semester, fall of 2023, where 627 students were served in a single semester. The Closed Closet serves students both in person and now with a curbside service, where families can fill out a form and volunteers select items for the students, which are bagged and then given to family specialists to return to to get back to the families. This allows us to service families that can't get to the Closed Closet due to work schedules or transportation issues. The 627 students served this fall included 491 in-person shoppers and 136 curbside orders, and the total of 627 is a 14% increase over this same time last year. In just 7 years, the Clothes Closet has served more than 5,000 students from every high school cluster across our district. The program would certainly not be possible without all of the volunteers and the drives from all of the NEISD campuses and the support of our entire NEISD community. We simply couldn't provide for our NEISD family without this support. We appreciate your continued support to help us achieve our mission. Social media is one of our most effective communication tools, so please like the NEISD Council of PTA's Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Band, and you can visit us on our website at necouncilpta.com. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Debbie. Did anyone have any questions for Debbie?
Just want to say thank you, and the Closed Closet program in particular is a great success and seems y'all grow every year, so that's a great initiative. So thank you and all the local PTAs for what y'all do.
Thank you so much.
And are there certain types of clothes that you want to let people know
Yeah.
that you need at this
So
point?
currently, we're in urgent need of jeans and joggers. So any warm weather clothes, school appropriate, please.
I just want to say thank you, too, for continuing to support the Blossom Scholarship. I wish there was a way, those 24 students, that we could kind of maybe tie them back to North. We'll support you as long as you come back to Northeast. Because we know that they're great if they come from
Absolutely.
us and we
Well,
sure do need
definitely,
them.
and join us on March 19th when we present those scholarships, and you can hear
Absolutely,
about
yeah.
their future plans as well, the new ones.
Thank you. And thank you for dinner. It was
Thank you.
Very
Oh, yeah,
yummy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, it was very yummy. And thank you all for being here. Thank you to the other council members that were here this evening. Appreciate that. Item 10, Superintendent comments. Dr. Micah.
Thank you, Madam President. So I want to begin with it's School Board Appreciation Month. So to show my appreciation to you, I actually wrote the commissioner. He agreed to give you a 100% increase in your rate of pay. Congratulations. But truly, thank you all so much. I say that tongue in cheek, right? But there is a price that you all pay. You're giving up time away from your own families. You're giving back to your communities in a way that most people don't step up. So truly, on behalf of myself and my executive staff and about the 8,400 employees in Northeast, thank you all for volunteering and serving and choosing to serve here. You may have seen that NEISD has 4 counseling teams that earned the coveted CREST Award. CREST, if you don't know, stands for Counselors Reinforcing Excellence for Students in Texas. So congratulations go to the counselors at Roosevelt High School, Churchill High School, Madison High School, and then at Hidden Forest Elementary School. So congratulations to those counseling groups. And then you may have seen the news, but we recently learned that Mission 18 is carrying an experiment from 4 of our CETA students to the International Space Station. CETA juniors and seniors are studying how microgravity will affect chia seed growth. So they'll be running a control experiment here on Earth while astronauts on the International Space Station will test those effects in space. So judges chose our CETA students' experiment during a nationwide experiment search as part of the Student Space Flight Experiments program. So that's pretty cool to see already. And then last, I just want to give Reagan High School, I know you guys got some things from some other folks, but that big banner up there, Reagan High School's art department created that and sent it over to Peggy to display. So that's all, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. It's pretty cool about those CETA students.
It's amazing. So, and we've only yet begun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Item 11, Board Business. A, presentation and possible action regarding order of election for May 4th, 2024 special election, single-member District 2. Ms. Caldwell?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, executive staff, and guests. Tonight, I have a short presentation on the process for the special election to fill a vacancy in single-member District 2. So there are two possible deadlines for you as a Board of Trustees to order this election. Because it is a vacancy, in election law, there is very specific language relating to that process. It does not follow the general election timeline. So I wanted to make that clear, that the deadlines for the general election are different than the deadlines for a special election to fill a vacancy. So you can see that there on the screen, just to read it into the record for anybody who might be listening at home. You have until February 24th to order that election. That triggers a series of deadlines in the election code. Or you can also take action between February 25th and March 19th to order that election, and that would trigger a different set of timeframes. The candidate filing period cannot begin until you do an order. So if someone were to come right now and try to drop off an application, I would not be able to accept it because you have not yet ordered the election for single member District 2. So this is a slide from Secretary of State's office, which is the premier resource for election law and process in Texas. And you will see there that the first date of file is recognized as when you order the election. And that filing deadline is going to depend on when this special election is ordered. So let's take a look at that. If you were to take action tonight or any time before February 24th, then the filing deadline for the special election would be March 4th at 5 p.m. If you did not order the election until February 25th through March 19th, any time within that window, then the deadline to accept candidate applications at that time would be March 25th. So just to recap, if you take action tonight, the deadline for candidates to file for single-member District 2 special election to fill a vacancy would be March 4th at 5 p.m. That concludes my presentation.
Questions? Ms. Villarreal, you're looking at me. With, I may or may not, but that's why
Okay.
Ms. Caldwell's here.
What would be the advantage of going ahead and saying, yes, we need to put this on the ballot and making that decision tonight versus waiting? What would be the advantage?
I don't know that I would characterize it as an advantage, but the result would be that it would be a longer candidate filing period. If you opened it tonight, if you took action tonight, it would open regular business hours tomorrow and be open to March 4th. If you wait until sometime between now and the 24th, you're shortening the candidate filing window because March 4th stays the deadline regardless.
Okay.
So the next agenda item is going to talk about the general election, which just, I don't want to steal thunder or jump ahead, but you know, that filing period begins January 17th.
Yes, we will
and
be.
closes February 16th. So that filing period for general is different from this special.
And the election day.
But the election
remains
is still the same, right?
Absolutely. May 4th is the election day. It just has to be called a special election to fill a vacancy because that's the situation.
So essentially, let me make sure that I understand this correctly. So essentially, today is the 9th. If we said yes tonight, it would open tomorrow. And it's going to actually, for the actual election, for the other seats, it would be, you said when? The
January 16th.
16th.
I mean 17th, I'm sorry, January 17th.
They kind of mesh then at that point, so they're closer.
It's just that this closes March 4th.
It would open sooner and close later than the general election. We'll review those dates in the next presentation when you get to that item.
Okay.
So it would be a longer filing period than the general election. And again, we'll talk about that in the next presentation, but that's set in statute. You do not have flexibility to change that for a general election.
So I guess the question becomes, do we want to order or take action on ordering the election tonight? Or do we want to wait because we have time before? Deb, do you mind putting that slide back up with the dates? I'm sorry. Okay, thanks, that is helpful. So it's, the discussion is, do we want to take possible action tonight to order it, or do we want to do it before February 24th? And then it has March 4th is the deadline if it happens before February 24th.
Is it possible for us to open both on the same date?
No, that was something that I sought guidance from the Secretary of State's office in December to see if we could have the same filing window, and I was told no matter what, the deadline would have to be March 4th, the 62nd day if you call it at this time, or March 25th if you were to wait to call it. We do not have the flexibility, the law does not give us the flexibility of having the filing window the same.
Do we have the flexibility of having the start date the same? So January
You would have to,
17th
you
for
would
both.
call, then you would, the filing start date depends on when you order the
Right.
election.
So-
So if you were
so
to
you're right. To
call
your-
the
to your
election
piece,
January 15th,
If you wanted it on to open on the 17th
then
of
you- yeah.
January, then you would have to have a board meeting on the 16th.
correct.
To order the election, and then they would begin at the same
So
date.
we
Does-
couldn't say today.
Correct, no. If you move and vote to order the election, we have to open it the very next day. That's what we've been trying to work out
Right.
on, if there was any way to align them.
Yep, and that's this slide here from the Secretary of State's office, that the first day to file is the day the special election is ordered. You'll see there that that's the guidance provided by the Secretary of State's office. It's actually not specified in code. That's why they're not citing code on that line. But that is the guidance we receive from the Secretary of State's office. It's just assumed that once the order is done, filing begins.
So any other questions or comments or?
And by ordering the election, does that effectively put an end to any of the appointment process proceedings?
I am not advised to that. I'm sorry. You would have to ask your legal counsel.
And do we know if Mr. Lopez is still in the building? Would you like us to ask that question?
Yes.
Let me text him and see if he can come down.
No, go right ahead. Oh, there he is. Were you watching from upstairs?
I was.
Okay. Can somebody tell Dr. Micah that? There he is. Okay. Did you hear Mr. Byers' question?
I believe the question was whether or not calling the election tonight would foreclose your ability to appoint someone. The reality is that your appointment window exists for that 180-day period that's set forth in the education code. So theoretically, you could call the election. You could still come back and appoint someone, although what I would point out to you is that anybody who would be appointed would need to run for, if they wanted to keep the seat, they would need to run and file whenever it was that you decide to call this special election if they wanted to keep the seat. So it doesn't, an appointment would not foreclose the need to have the election one way or another to elect someone for the unexpired portion of that term.
Well, let me ask you this. If we were to talk about the appointment process and appoint someone, then this is not a vacant seat for the election, right? So then does that change that scenario to where the timeline would be different?
That would, according to, and Ms. Caldwell and I have had discussions with respect to the election code as well as her discussions with the Secretary of State. And if there were to be someone appointed to the position, then you would be calling a special election, and the way that the Secretary of State labels it is that would be to fill the unexpired term. It wouldn't be to fill a vacancy.
Okay.
And so that, I believe, Deb, you were told that that allows for the filing period for candidates to be congruent with the general election deadlines. But because this is to elect to fill a vacancy, that's why there's a different set of timelines that the Secretary of State has set forth for candidate filing.
Okay.
But again, want to stress, the appointment period I mean, again, even if you appoint someone, if they want to keep the seat, they've got to
Right,
run in the
they would
election
have to-
regardless.
right.
That's right.
And we have the ability to appoint until February,
I haven't done the calculation, but it's 180 days after the vacancy was created, and legally speaking, the vacancy was created upon Ms. Williams's passing.
She passed August the 6th.
So August the 7th would have been the day one of the vacancy.
so
So
August.
your calculation, Deb, was there, what was the date? February 2nd.
February 2nd?
February 2nd is
Okay.
what Deb has calculated.
Okay. Okay, any other questions from Mr. Lopez? Will you stay tight?
Thank you.
Thank you for jumping down here. So any other questions or comments? Does anybody want to make a motion about this? Do you want to, what are some thoughts?
If it were possible to appoint someone before the February 2nd, I would really appreciate doing that so that all the candidates that are up on May 4th are in the same filing and deadline timeline. Not only that, I still feel it's very important to have a voice here for this single-member district, even if it's just for a few months. There are a lot of issues coming up, and I think that it would be very important to have someone here to represent the community.
Okay. So,
Madam President, I would just offer that based on the timing of our meetings, now would be the appropriate time for us to order the special election to give anybody who is interested the appropriate windows, because obviously they're on a different timeline than the other ones, without having to call a special on Sunday, the 16th of January, to align it with the 4 regular seats that will be available in the May election. So I would move to order the special election May 4th for the single-member District 2.
wait, say that again?
I would move to approve this resolution for the order of election,
Oh, okay, okay.
if I wasn't clear, sorry.
I heard May 4th and I wasn't thinking right. Okay. So I have a motion to approve this order. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. Any other discussion? No? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so 5-1. Okay, the motion carries. Item B, possible action regarding order of election for May 4th, 2024, general election, single-member districts 1, 4, 5, 6. Ms. Caldwell.
Madam President, members of the board, executive staff, and guests, thank you for giving me time to go over the general election procedures. So in law, education code and election code, it specifies when the filing period for candidates must occur. Those are on your screen. Just to read it into the record, that would be January 17th through February 16th. You have until February 16th in election code to order the election. It is an item on your agenda tonight for consideration. The notice of deadline to file applications was posted on the bulletin board just outside of the school board room, as well as on the district's webpage, at the board elections webpage, before we left for the break. So that is a legal requirement that you post the filing information for those candidates. Again, this is for the general election, which are seats 1, 4, 5, and 6. And that notice is there. You will see again that start date and end date that we referred to earlier. And it's in English and Spanish. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions for Ms. Caldwell?
I just want, could you go back that slide, Ms. Caldwell? Or at the bottom there, so I don't believe this used to be the way, but now you can email an application. Is that correct? I see that at the bottom versus doing a hand delivery?
Yes, that has actually been allowable for a little while.
Okay.
Mail, and with mail, it's not the postmark date, it's the receipt date. Email, which is again the receipt date, of course, is that electronic stamp associated with email,
Yeah.
or hand deliver, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
They do have to be notarized. We offer that service for free for anybody who needs it, but people can certainly get it notarized and turn it in without coming to the office, along with the other documents we ask for in addition to the application.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion to order this election for SMD 1, 4, 5, and 6?
Can I just say so moved? Or do I need to say?
No, that's fine. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, items, thank you, Ms. Caldwell. Item C, discussion and possible action regarding possible update to School Health Advisory Council SHAC bylaws. I sent you all some proposed language to, this is kind of what we had discussed at the last board meeting. Does anybody have any thoughts or comments or?
I've got a couple, Madam President. First off, so this was your agenda item, or did somebody else request this? Because, I mean, we talked about some in generalities, but also there was the comment of, for anyone who's not aware, in November, the SHAC, it requested all members to provide input on possible changes to the bylaws, which are due middle of this week. Mrs. Aguilar here can confirm that. And then in February, they're going to do it because they're supposed to do it each year, but last year they have a chance. So to me, this issue, I would suggest we take no action until we get that full, because there's some other things I think are going to be revisions recommended by the SHAC and all of our SHAC members who've been going through it. So to do all of this, currently, the law only requires that you have what the conversation was, not who said what, and a vote total. You don't have to name names. Those standing committees have had the choice to do it. They operated that way last year. This year, we obviously are aware of one situation where things didn't quite go according to that, but to me, there's no value added in changing this language, nor is this language very clear. We talk about law, which law, and all that, so I suggest no action. Let's wait for the full bylaw recommendation from the SHAC that we all discuss at once versus going to this, otherwise we're going to piecemeal this, because there's other changes I think should happen in here as well, but obviously that's not on the agenda tonight. So that's my perspective on that, and I would move to take no action on this until we get the SHAC recommendation.
So when does that SHAC recommendation?
They're
come
all due, Mrs. Aguilar, I believe is here, but they're all due here, input from any SHAC member with their rationale and changes recommended, and then at the February meeting, they're going to vote, discuss and vote on that to make that, because they were supposed to do it obviously last May, but they got a late start last year, so they're going to bring it, I'm assuming after the February vote, they would bring it to us for discussion of the full SHAC meeting. That was the discussion they had at the November meeting. And Mrs. Aguilar, I believe, Rebecca, if I'm incorrect, please clarify if I'm misstating the meeting, but that's what it was.
So the full SHAC is voting on the changes
Yes.
in February?
In fact, yes, ma'am. They're going to, all their inputs are going to be in by I think, middle of this month, and here in the next week or so, and then they're going to incorporate it, and they're going to discuss it and vote on all proposed changes.
Okay, so then those recommended changes to bylaws could come to the board in March?
That, I believe, assuming they come to an agreement, that it should be able to.
Okay.
And then we can have a discussion of all of it, because obviously there's some other stuff we've looked at that may need some tweaking as well.
Okay. This was because, based on the discussion that was last month, I said that we needed to talk about, how to protect those volunteers.
And-
So this was continuation of that conversation.
Fair enough. I mean, right now, the committees have the choice of how they do it, and as I discussed, or I mentioned there, and also I'd spoken with Mr. Campbell after that meeting in November, they had the same conversation, was those committees, they have to make sure they have what was discussed, but not who said it, and then a vote total. They don't have to say by name. So this really doesn't even need to, quite frankly, in my opinion, being here. They have that flexibility. That's how that standing committee chose to do it. Last year, it wasn't a problem.
Is that in writing somewhere?
What's that?
What their process is for that?
What the standing committees are? No, there's nothing in writing. There's obviously
So I think
the
what
law.
this is just to clarify that, but
Right.
I'm fine with holding this
Okay.
off until the bylaws come from SHAC with their
Is it-
revisions, and then we'll just
Do all
add
of
this to
them.
the discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, your mic's on. Okay, so I move to take no action until the full SHAC recommendation comes to us at a subsequent board meeting.
Could I
Second.
just, I really see no problem with putting this in right now. I don't see anything wrong with it. And I think it's a good, if nothing else, it's maybe a good reminder or a direction that we want the board to to take leadership on after the discussions a couple months ago about the intimidation and the harassment that went on. And I think, like you said, protecting our community members is important.
That is, but I do believe there's a motion on the floor for no action in a second.
Well, then we're allowed to have discussion afterwards, correct?
We are allowed to have discussion, but I didn't know if that was, that part of the discussion? I mean, that's,
Well, I
We
didn't
are.
hear a second, so
I thought you seconded, maybe not.
I did.
Okay,
you seconded it, I didn't hear it.
okay, sorry if I thought that I heard it
I
and
may
Mike wasn't on, but.
have been premature on that.
And
But I
if we're-
I feel like we just need to let the shack be the shack and do what they need to do. It was my understanding that they were supposed to vote on things in order to bring it to us. And I feel like we're disrespecting them by bypassing them and then just, making decisions when they are supposed to be deciding how they want to run that.
Well,
So
it's-
that's my understanding.
I think it's a good conversation to have. I suggest we do it in totality, because as written, allowed by law, which law we're referring to, define confidentiality. We're a public school system. We're not in a secret school system. We're not in the I lived in the classified world in a previous career. We just need to have appropriate stuff, and we can codify it as simple as saying literally that you have the right, you will record deliberations and the vote totals, but we will not put names next to it. But we also don't have the right to limit the free speech if a SHAC member wants to go out and talk to their community, because this is about community broad-based input. They should be able to go, hey, yeah, I want recess, second recess, that's a great idea, or we want to get Cokes out of the high school stuff. They should be able to talk to the community members. By saying confidentiality, now they can't talk. And for several years, the SHAC was closed with confidentiality. That defeats the purpose and the intent of 28004, which is that community input. So our community members should be getting feedback and input and be able to talk about general stuff, not specifics and not who voted what.
And I don't think that's the intent.
But we need to be, this language to me is very vague, and it could be misconstrued. So that's where I think we just need to have a better conversation in totality. I think the SHAC kind of understands, and that committee in particular already kind of made some adjustments to it. So I would recommend, once again, we just wait till the full SHAC comes back with all the changes so we can have a holistic conversation on this, on the bylaws.
And I'm willing to do that. I know that, ultimately it is our decision. They're just making recommendations. And so, granted, we need to let them do their work, as Ms. Villarreal said. However, the buck stops with us, so to speak. And so, I know in kind of understanding how that, the most specific, or the most recent committee where we had some issues, they've, I believe, had discussions to kind of shore up their processes. I think it is valuable to have that in the bylaws, and I think we could have that discussion with the rest of whatever changes come. Because I think, we obviously found some problems, and, some people feel uncomfortable and we'll lose volunteers real quick if we're not careful. And so we can't be heavy-handed on them, but at the same time, it's our responsibility. So I think confidentiality may have been not the exact word you were looking for, but I think the intent with some of the second language you put, which was to not record votes, that kind of thing,
Right.
is appropriate. So
Yeah, and like I said,
I'm willing to.
this was just a starting point to start the conversation
So,
and
Ms.
the discussion.
Ms.
So-
Hugh, I had some concerns as well, wanting to make sure this was done like sooner rather than later, but I also understand that internally, like we've let them do, they've discussed this and come up with some things. And after speaking to the person that's representative of the community where I come from, I feel more confident that if we put this in with the changes that are coming to us in March potentially, that I think that's timely and good.
If there is a delay on this statement that's being offered tonight, I would really like, and I think you've said something to that, Mr. Bauer, that there is a reassurance that people who were intimidated or harassed or whatever, that protection is offered, or that there's been discussion about the importance of the conversations going on, and that it's.
And that committee has discussed it going forward. From my understanding, they're just going to, what was discussed in the vote totals and not put names by anybody. But they're going to keep a record, which they're supposed to do by the law, of the deliberation, so we know what the discussion was and then what the vote total, but no names and no who said what. So that way, it'll provide the appropriate level of protection or privacy, confidentiality, we got to be careful with the words we use. At the same time as making sure that there's appropriate public access to the holistic decision-making and the vote totals, not who voted what. So.
If this
and
is
we'll-
delayed, so long as it's not
No.
pushed aside.
Yeah.
No,
That would be
I
my
think it was part of the
advice.
discussion with everything else comes back.
All right, so all those in favor for no action tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Item 12, new business for possible board action. A, Board Policy 1, possible action regarding Board Policy Update 122. Dr. Micah.
Thank you, Madam President. Like in any, after every election, after every legislative year, there's always a slew of policies that come out. Of course, you all know that the legal ones are legal, therefore we don't have to adopt them. The ones that are, though, the local, and my staff is here to answer any questions if you have any.
Does anyone have any questions about Update 122?
I have a couple of
Okay,
questions.
go ahead.
For policy FFAC, page 51, it looks like everything was struck through and then the exact same wording was used again?
What page was that? I'm sorry.
51?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Ms. Landry, for several years now, I've asked that question, and nobody has an answer. Because it happens in several other policies as well, where they strike out an entire sentence, and then they rewrite that exact same sentence.
And I did notice that on
Yeah,
some,
so
so that's a
Just
common.
to jump in on that, I never understood that, and I don't think we've ever gotten a clear answer from
We've never gotten.
TASB.
TASB's never been able to answer that question for us.
And so,
Okay.
as long as you're okay with the language, I guess.
I mean,
the,
nothing changed.
No, nothing
but We're
changed, so,
approving a change that didn't change.
yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that.
And did you have another question?
Yes, hold on a second. So on policy FFB,
Page number, please.
57. There were some statements within the policy that referenced other policies, but the policy identifiers weren't included. I would like to recommend that we include the identification of the policies that are alluded to. It's policy on suicide, substance abuse, and I think there was one other.
Oh, are you saying, so for instance, where it says for a student, the team identifies as at risk of suicide, the team shall follow the district suicide prevention program?
Policy, right, and then,
I
Oh,
didn't see
wait a minute.
policy.
no, it does say program, okay, sorry, I misread that. Okay. And so I guess the reference to where that can be found so that it's, so where do we find the suicide prevention program? Where do we find the substance abuse program? Where are these, how do they link to the policy in ensuring that we have a path to follow on those?
So you want a link in there, right?
A
That
reference
clicks,
to
that.
where to find it?
Yeah,
some-
so, and I'll have to talk with Yvonne. So I've asked for things like that, but when we start to do, because TASB houses these policies for it, for us to put our own links in, they can't do it in a policy. So we'd have to create like an addendum to this policy with links. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Like you would have to put see addendum, and then online you would have to click on the addendum for that link. They can't put it right into the policy.
Okay. So
Does that make sense? Did I make
so
sense?
we don't own these.
It's your policies, but they're housed by TASB. So when you vote and approve it, we send them to TASB after your approval, and then they upload that policy. It's not us doing it. Does that make sense?
It does. It
I'm talking and I'm
does.
trying to make sure I'm making sense.
You're definitely making sense. I'm
Okay.
just wondering how we can ensure that when you're.
So is there a way to
I
say?
was just going to ask, I'm sorry, Ms. Landry, to interrupt you.
No problem.
I was just wondering if we could actually do a reg with that information that's tied to FFB regulation.
Yeah, that you would click on the reg.
Yes, sir. And then, in that reg, then we could make those changes since we own those.
Right.
If it changes, we could make those changes as needed.
And it would all tie together.
Do you mind, so here's what I can do. Let me reach out to them again, because I know we've done this before, and what I described to you is what I was told. Let me see if that works, and then we can try, and then we'll just bring it back to you. With,
Sounds good.
I mean, I can bring it back next month to you and say, here's what we found out, and here's what we can or can't do. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Would you be comfortable having it approved while we work on that? So that the policy
yeah,
can kind
that's
of
fine.
go ahead and then we can do a regulation again, or a reg.
Yeah, we'll figure out a way to
Or
somehow
just bring the policy back.
put on those, and then we'll bring it back to you, because you'd have to approve. We can say, we either created a reg and here's how we did it, or we actually were able to embed a link and here's what we did, and then you'll just see and adopt that with that amendment.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good. Thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay.
There are two questions, and if I missed it, please tell me. I didn't see the DP local for personnel positions or EIC local. Just skip from DC to EHB on page 45 of our packet, and then even from EHBC to FEA local on page 49. But did I miss that? I must.
Right there. Matter of fact, I had a question on that too.
What page is that?
This is 40, this is.
No, I'm looking for DP local that is
Okay.
listed in the action item. DP and EIC local were mentioned as locals, but I didn't see them in the actual packet with any sort of change.
DC,
No, DP, Delta Papa, sorry. It's right after DC, it was supposed to be. Delta Papa, phonetics.
I thought you said death to Papa.
No,
I
Delta
was
Papa.
like, what?
Sorry, phonetic.
No.
Phonetic alphabet. Used it once or twice in my life. Yeah.
Dr. Micah, Mr. Hilliard, I believe this was because DP local is whether our district is going to choose to, we have to make a decision whether to employ chaplains or ask for volunteers.
Okay.
That
So
goes
that's-
one direction as DP. However, if the board chooses to have chaplains as only volunteers, then that would fall under G case, G local. And
Okay,
so I
but
think
it's not
there's
in our
two directions.
Understood, but it's not in our packet.
No,
anymore.
because you haven't done, you haven't
Okay. It
would-
acted yet.
Okay, I was looking at the action item, I was
That's-
cross-comparing.
that's why. Thank
Okay,
you,
that
Mr.
explains why
Hernandez, for
DP.
that.
and then
Correct.
EIC local, the class ranking was the other one that I didn't see in our package. If I missed it, please tell me, but it would have been page 49.
EIC local class ranking.
EIC local class ranking is the one I don't see. I went from EHBCA local, and then on page 48 and on 49, it starts with FEA local. And so I didn't see the EIC local.
Yeah, permits the student to repeat a high school course.
Well, I'm waiting for Mr. Jarrett. He's sifting through.
I see it in the explanatory notes.
Right, I saw it in the notes, and then I went back to look at it, and I just didn't want to see what the actual wording was for it, and that's what I just wasn't seeing it in the, I'll call it the TASB format, so.
Yeah, because I don't have it in mine as well, Mr. Hilliard.
Yeah, I
So
don't
what
see
I
it.
think I would do, and I'm looking over at
Okay.
Mr. Jarrett, is do nothing with that,
Okay.
and we'll bring it back to you.
Okay, that's,
Okay?
and that's fine too,
Yes,
because
sir.
I just want to make sure we. that's
Because
it.
I'm looking through my packet and I don't see it.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Hilliard?
No, that was it, just wanted to make sure.
Okay. So I think when we make a motion or to approve these updates, it would not be DP local and EIC local.
I would
Am-
concur.
Right?
I would concur with that.
Okay. Unless there's something else. So, Ms. Villarreal, did you have some?
Okay, I was looking at page 44. Sorry, I think I need new glasses. Okay, it says the superintendent has the sole authority to make recommendations to the board regarding the selection of contractual personnel. I thought that's what he has been doing all this time.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
I'm on page 44, unless this is mixed up with everything else, but it printed out in my packet.
It's 44.
It's 44.
DC local, the employment practices. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Miss Witten, you want to come and explain the changes? Is that okay with you, Mr. Jimenez?
Oh.
Okay, sorry. He's wearing new glasses, and he's struggling with them right now. He keeps popping them off and on. I said, just get progressives, it gets easier.
And forgive me, I need glasses, but I can see this, sir. So with this current policy change, I know it's really just striking through language that is actually repeated if you see further down. It has been our practice for some years that the superintendent does have the authority to approve all contracted employees with the exception of those that are director or above and principal and assistant principals, which is what we present to you at our monthly board meetings. So that's not really a change in our practice. That has been what we've been doing. But you do see they've just added one further note at the bottom about bus drivers, because that was incorporated in legal, and there's a reference here in local.
Okay, that makes sense. I had just stepped out of reality and stepped back in thinking, wait a minute, we've been doing this all this time.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody have anything else?
Yes.
Okay,
I have
sorry.
a couple questions. On CQB on page 42 in the packet, talking about security breach notifications. In blue, we added, it says, or a security incident as defined by law. Is incident actually defined, or security incident actually defined anywhere? Does anybody know? I did a few, looked at the state code and everything, and I don't know what a security incident might actually entail.
So I don't know exactly, but Dean is in the back if he wants to. I think he's back there. Yeah. Dean, you want to come forward? Maybe you might know that answer. You're the cyber guy.
Is that sort of, I guess, the question is that it's more of just a common, like, everybody knows if it's a security incident, but it specifically says defined by law, so I want to make sure we're.
The difference being, originally it was security breach, which meant that there was a private information was exposed, operational information was exposed, but a cybersecurity incident is if they came in and held us for ransom. We weren't sure if anything was exposed, but we knew that we couldn't complete business. So now they're saying any incident is now covered in that.
And that's a common.
Yes, sir.
Common understanding in your
Yes, sir.
world. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That helps. And then the other, I ask this usually every time this comes up, but there's a couple of policies that specifically state the superintendent. Do we have to include something or designee, or does it matter, or is it per policy that it really? Because some of it, one of them was on, we'll just say, was it CSA, page 43? And it's the building access control. Superintendent shall ensure that findings of the weekly inspections are reported to the district, that kind of thing. And I know that you give a monthly update, but does that fulfill the requirement, I guess?
Yeah,
Or do we have to allow for somebody else to give that information?
No, Mr. Byer, from my understanding, whether you put the superintendent or designee, I think it's an understanding that I'm not going to be able to do all of it.
Sure.
That I can designate that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if it's not done,
Yeah.
it's going to fall on me, right? I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Sure.
Because I was just reading like at the top of DC, right? The superintendent shall define the qualifications, duties, and responsibilities of all positions. Well, ultimately, Shyla and those folks do it.
Sure.
But I'm making sure that they're getting it done.
Okay.
And so that it's, if there's an issue, then it's going to land in my lap to start handling.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense, and I
Because I can't abdicate that responsibility to someone else.
Sure.
I have to own it, but understand that it says the superintendent, but I'm delegating certain things over with the necessity then to oversee it.
Okay.
I think part of it is there are some that say
That- and I think that's-
superintendent,
it's
and then there are
somewhat
some that say
inconsistent.
superintendent and or designee. So
Yeah.
it's not consistent.
And there's some that say parent, some say parent and guardian, some define parent as a guardian or a legal, and so it's not 100% consistent across the board when we get the policies, and so just as long as we're comfortable with that, I have no problems.
Yeah, so when we call TASB about the amendment that Ms. Landry wants, I'll ask that clarifying question and bring it back to y'all.
That's fine.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? All right, so do I have a motion to approve update 122 without DP local and EIC local?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item B, Instruction and Campus Administration. 1, discussion and possible action regarding employee voice survey results and discipline data. Mr. Jimenez.
President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Tyler Shoesmith, Executive Director for Pupil Personnel Services, will address this agenda item.
Good evening, Madam Board President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Tonight, I come to you with a presentation in response to the request that was made by the board at the November board meeting, which was to look at the presentation on the employee voice survey related to discipline, review teacher responses regarding behavior and discipline, review the comments provided by the teachers, review the applicable discipline policy related to the comments, and present a 5-year discipline data review. So the employee voice survey was administered in August of 2023. There were 3,100 employee responses. The participants were asked to select 2 of the following selections in response to, as one of our teachers, what are daily responsibilities where you'd like your voice heard? And the options that they were provided: safety and security, calendar, classroom management in regard to discipline policies and procedures, designing teacher community events to better connect with the community, paperwork, parental involvement, professional development options, the electronic tools that are implemented into the classroom, other, and I'll note that other is where they were able to make a comment, and they had also the final selection, which was none. From this, teachers were asked the following question that I just reiterate as one of our teachers: what are your daily responsibilities where you'd like your voice heard? Please note that the early childhood teachers, their responses were included in the elementary data, and the responses on this slide denote only the teacher responses. There were administrators, paraprofessionals that also received the survey, but this is only for the teacher responses. Elementary, we had 1,269, which is composed of 49%. Middle at 596, and high school had 710 responses. The top 2 ranked responses from the survey: classroom management in regard to discipline policies and procedures with 1,055 responses, and paperwork, 808 responses. So in response, this is how the survey findings were broken down. We had 51% that came from elementary, 25% from middle school, and 23% at high school. What's represented here also is very comparable to the actual population of teachers within those different school levels. Our population of elementary teachers is 1,972, which is 51% of our population, and 46% of those responded. At middle school, we have 850 teachers, 21% of those teachers responded. Excuse me, they comprise 21% of the population, and 23% responded. And at high school, we have 1,002 teachers and 26.1, which is 26.1% of the population, and 28% of those responded to the survey. So the selection of the classroom management regarding discipline policies and procedures, it does indicate that teachers want to provide input. The comments made by the survey participants, not included in the other survey answer selection, they're included in the comment section at the end of each survey. We reviewed the information that was provided by the Research and Planning Department, and they showed us the list of all the comments. There were not any discipline-related comments that were made from that survey. However, though, what we also have in place in the very near future, the Human Resources Department is conducting an employee engagement survey that's going to take place in January this year, which is this month. We had this prepared for December, so January, right? A section on discipline behavior-related questions are included. Our district, we're going to analyze those responses to the discipline and behavior-related for commonality, and our next action steps. You know, we're going to, once the comments and the survey data are returned, we're going to develop an action plan. What we're looking at are holding focus meetings with teachers to better understand their perspective based on whatever comments we have returned from that, and then survey responses and focus meeting information. We're going to provide those back to the Board of Trustees for your information. So what we're going to look at now is a 5-year discipline data, a 5-year comparison. And just in general, you know, you look at the 5 years that we've had discipline, we have obviously our COVID years and lockdown, so it really makes it difficult for year-to-year comparison, you know, especially how many things have changed over the last 5 years when we consider vaping and things like that. But right here you have displayed for you is the district summary. In the past, you have been provided with these numbers in the TAPR report. Please note that the asterisks are values that are under 5 and the dashes represent no data. These values also represent the number of incidents that occur for each offense. Note that a single offense may have more than one student involved. So when you think about it like an offense or an incident that happens, it has a numerical value. So let's have, if you have 3 people who are involved in it, they all have that same incident number. So we don't have that same count hit us 3 times. It's one incident, but 3 individuals were related to that incident. Note also that the green column is what we have to date. This was as December 8th, I believe, is when I pulled the data, the final data, prior to providing you with the presentation. And just a couple key things to think about. Fighting, which is number 41, code 41, that represents incidents for when a student has repeated fighting offenses or that the fight was substantially disruptive or injurious and DAP is warranted. You'll see across the state of Texas, there are districts that differ in how assault and fighting are used. Some districts, they code all assaults as fighting. Our district has historically used assault for assault and fighting for fighting. There is some overlap that TEA has recognized, and it's up to the district to decide which code they want to use. So when you look at that fighting number, you probably might think, well, we only have so few fights here, but I hear about a lot, but that's actually not the case. Those fall under a different disciplinary code that we use locally, because the majority of the single fights are handled on campus. The 04 possession of marijuana controlled substance changed this year from mandatory to discretionary, as well as the inclusion of the 62, which is possession of marijuana and THC, and then 63, possession of e-cig, and then 64, possession of controlled substance. We're now going to look at the elementary, look at each school level, so we'll start off with the elementary here first. And now we have middle school. And lastly, high school. Next, we're going to transition to the last large piece, which is the board policy and administrative regulations related to discipline. So as you're probably aware, Chapter 37 of the Texas Education Code, you know, when I first came into this position, looking at trying to fit all these pieces together, and to Mr. Hilliard's question is like, how do all these interrelate? That's where, when I created the student, or not created, but when I went back and did some revisions to the Student Code of Conduct, I put links to every single code that I could find that was referenced in there, because you look at this big piece, which is Texas Education Code, and it has references to all the other documents that are out there that reside in the, let's say, the Penal Code, or the Texas Administrative Code, or the Health and Safety Code, and they all interlink with this web of how they all talk to each other. And so it's a big piece, but really when you look at some of the I guess the framework of the Texas Education Code, it starts to all make sense because it refers back to specific definitions that are located in other sections that are already established by law or regulatory agency. So when you look at the Texas Education Code, it references our considerations that we have to take with regards to imposing discipline consequences. They provide descriptions of offenses and consequence levels, notification requirements, our process for how many days we have to have a hearing or a conference, the special education portion of discipline, the role of law enforcement, legislative statutes that reference certain bills as it's related to it. Then you have the Texas Penal Code, and also provide, within the Texas Penal Code, those where a lot of our definitions come for specific offenses. So when we talk about assault, there's a very specific definition that's housed in the Texas Penal Code, so we use that as a basis for how we determine different levels of assault. And then you have a Health and Safety Code relating to certain definitions, Civil Practice and Remedies Code related to civil actions. For example, if you have an individual that is making statements online, do the parents have the right to be able to sue those individuals? That's where it kind of bridges into that civil area. And then you have the Texas Family Code related to the Juvenile Justice Code. And then lastly, provided you with the links to legal local board policy. You asked for all the relevant board policies that relate to discipline. A majority of these could be under the Student Code of Conduct. That just would have been redundant and kind of confusing, so I left it exactly on FO. It actually states that we have to have a Student Code of Conduct, but a majority of these fall under FO, or excuse me, under the Student Code of Conduct as their reference document. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
I've got a couple. First off, thank you. Excellent, especially this last slide here, especially going forward, because, you know, the real goal obviously is the teachers express some sort of concern about discipline management policy, but there are a lot of them out there, because I hope the goal would be is we get all the teachers and the admin provide input, but now they have this quick reference. I hope this particular slide is available to them or can be posted at some point, because it's really, they're leaving it every day. We want to have that safe, secure learning environment for all the students and staff. And so we obviously don't know what we don't know. I mean, we can read through these, but what works, what's best practices, or other things to consider for not only standardization, but best practices, so that we can make it the best if there are corrections, and maybe there's not. So that was the first comment on that, but so thank you for getting all of this together. Question on the FO reg. That one's from 1999, student discipline, which is fine because it's pretty basic, but the admin, but does that need to be updated or maybe not? I know some of these don't need to be updated, but I don't feel, I was looking through the different regs, and that one, the legal and local are like 21 and 23, so they're very current, but the district regulation admin reg that y'all control is from 1999, so that's just something to consider, but that's y'all's day-to-day stuff. The real question, and I think you kind of addressed it, is the concerns for me when I saw some of the data were the codes 04, which is the possession of controlled substances, but then 2728, which is the assault against employees or volunteers, fighting obviously, and then the harassment of employees. And I know y'all addressed that policy. Do y'all keep track, I'm not going to use, of individuals who repeatedly or more than one time, they will show up as individuals, and obviously there's progressive discipline based on the code of conduct, all of that stuff, because some of the numbers are a little bit higher than, I don't know, I wasn't sure what to expect. I know we saw some data last year, but, and usually that also involving the parents if it's a student. If a student's involved, they get the parents involved in discussing the discipline issue pretty quickly to help mitigate going forward. Is that part of the process? If a student's involved in misconduct?
So I'll talk about the progressive discipline part first.
Okay.
So yes, there is progressive discipline, and within the TEC, Chapter 37, one of the first things we have to take into account is prior disciplinary history. So that can either level up or level down someone's consequences as to their behavior. And so that is something we do take in consideration, and we have a scheduling process in the background that we utilize for that as well. When we look at what is the penalty for, an offense that a student commits, especially if it's assaulting staff or something like that. Yes, sir.
One more, Madam President. On the survey that y'all are going to host here pretty soon, I'm assuming there'll be open-ended areas for commentary, not just yes, no, pick one. They could put comments in there, the teacher voice. Is that a safe assumption?
Ms. Whitten is.
Mrs. Whitten's walking forward to answer that.
So for the survey that we've consulted with TASB on, there's one opportunity at the very end of the survey for open-ended. It is a Likert scale, so it does have various questions in which they'll be able to rate based on, depending the question that's phrased. That's just, again, based on TASB's feedback to us to try to limit, not offer on every single section open-ended, but there will be that opportunity, yes, for teachers
Okay,
and all employees.
the question is, will it be anonymous? Because sometimes there's concerns, sometimes staff will be concerned, they don't want to say something bad about their campus, but maybe an area for improvement. Is there a way that there's some level of confidence that there'll be some anonymity so that we get good feedback if there's something for us to look at? And not that there's problems, but ways to improve maybe.
Yes, and we are providing that in our communication to employees. There is actually no demographic or personal data that we are collecting.
Okay. And then the part here, you talked about looking at commonalities when you do the data stuff. I assume you mean by elementary, middle, high school, or other type things. When you say commonality, that can be interpreted different ways, but when you say commonality, what are y'all looking for when you are going to provide that feedback to us based on commonality?
So if we're looking at like trends of like a specific thing, assaults against staff or THC at elementary, multiple teachers referencing that, something that we've not seen.
Okay.
Something that's a little outside the norm of our, range or our median of understanding of what that each campus or each cluster typically has on a regular basis, like something that most teachers are concerned about, then definitely would want to address that.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. And this is for all the teachers and administrators. Please help us to make everything the best policies we can. The last document with all of the regulations is great. So we can look if there are things that need improvement. But I really appreciate the time and effort to put this together, Dr. Micah, and of course you, Mr. Shoesmith. It's definitely helpful to have a better understanding of all the pieces that play into the discipline. So that's it. Thank you, Madam President.
And not to feed into their second concern, which was paperwork, but this is a great slide to to go through. And I'm sure they don't all have time to go through each one of these until they're faced with that particular situation. But going through some of them, there's good information that I think might help support some of the teachers and staff that they may not even be aware of, just because they're trying to get through their day-to-day things. So, and I know they go through a ton of training and a ton of hours of professional development, so being able to get that feedback from them, I think, is going to be great.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much for putting this together. It was a great presentation. Item 2, discussion.
Madam President, since it was an action item, do we need to make it was a discussion of possible action? I would move that we post that last slide and then let the district staff bring us the survey results at the appropriate time. Because it was a possible action item, just so we have.
Post that slide.
The last slide that has all of the policies in a prominent place so that teachers and whoever wants to provide feedback can get to it quickly. They don't have to go to our board meeting. They can have it. I don't know where it would be best hosted on the district website. I'll let y'all decide that. But any of the teachers and stuff, or just send it out with a survey maybe, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah,
the best.
would that be?
That's probably even better as a survey, but
have it part of the survey.
with the hot links active like this was excellent. It was very user-friendly. So yeah, with the survey.
Just include it as part of the survey.
Yep, that would work.
Or
If we can, here's what I would say. Let us look at ways we can disseminate it.
Okay.
Because I don't want to make a promise here and say, oh yeah, we're going to put it in a survey, and we can't. So we'll figure out how we can disseminate it out to the campuses and to the teachers, and then we'll let you know how it went out.
Okay, I'll amend my motion. Request that this district staff prominently disseminate the information, make it readily available for all campus staff and admin to utilize for the survey, and then the survey results at the appropriate time briefed to the board.
Does that really need to be an
Actually, does it need, no, not necessarily.
Because, I think the presentation said that they're doing the survey and they're
Yeah.
going to bring us back the results, and
No.
I don't know.
It could be no action. I mean, that's fine too. I just want to make sure that we are.
I think it's been stated. so-
Okay.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
All right, so,
All right, but does that motion then come off then?
yeah,
You,
do you want to withdraw your motion?
I will withdraw the motion.
Okay, thank you.
For B1.
So no action on 1. 2, discussion and possible action regarding Bear County Mental Health Grant update. Mr. Jarrett.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to ask Tyler Shoesmith to address this agenda item as well.
Good evening again. Well, we come to you tonight with an update on the Fit Mind, Fit Self, Fit Future mental health grant. Note that in your board packet, you received additional slides to provide context of the overall grant activities. This presentation is slightly shorter, just to provide more concise overview of the grant program. This evening, I also have Ms. Rose Garcia, who is the Director of Guidance Services, to assist with the presentation. So the requested items were a 3-year project plan for the different programs and funding. What have the grant funds paid for? How are we going to track the effectiveness? Provide a timeline for when the staff will provide the curriculum portion to the SHAC so the mental health portion of the process can move along, can be moved along. So key factors when we were looking at the development of our grant activities, I think I mentioned this in our last presentation, but the most important thing luckily I've had experience working with federal grants and sometimes short periods of grants where we know we need to be able to sustain this after the period of the grant. So we really looked at activities that we could build into what we currently offer in the district, ensuring that longitudinal support for our kiddos so that it doesn't just drop off after the funding ends with regards to the grant. We looked at responsive services for students with high needs, ensure that the grant activities are sustainable past year 3 of the funding, build a data system and frameworks that intertwine with our district's current data software and practices, avoid purchasing and licensing for software and curriculum that would require continuous funding. Our district at this point has not purchased or contracted for curriculum or guest speakers. Should curriculum or speakers be identified, we will definitely request SHAC's recommendation. Our 3-year plan is to create a framework and system with a long-term focus on lower discipline infractions, improve attendance, lower recidivism, create a district-owned and managed software community input program, build an ongoing support system beyond the grant, provide ongoing training for campus counselors to build their capacity to support students, and provide additional support to our alternative schools. Our district currently has a very robust support system for our students. I think it was very important for us to make sure our work is intertwined with that, so we're not, number one, duplicating effort, but also we're leveraging all of our resources, so it's not a one-stop shop, it's the district is the one-stop shop. Everything that we have is very much ingrained. This is very much similar to a majority of the similar services we currently offer in the district. It's layered and targeted in a very specific fashion, though, for some of our highest need students. The funds that we receive are from the American Rescue Plan Act, which are pass-through funds through Bear County. Bear County is the pass-through agent for these funds. So there are federal reporting requirements that include the Bear County precinct, client education level, gender, ethnicity, race, military foster care, formerly incarcerated, and income level. And that's mostly from the parents, like what type of background do the parents have, because they look at very specific demographics that we're supposed to be serving. The parent provided, we get that demographic information through our intake. We also have to provide financial reporting on a monthly basis. So we meet with the Bear County folks every month via Zoom. Victoria Gomez has been super helpful. She's our contact there, and she provides us with up-to-date information while we give her a monthly synopsis of what we've done so far. On our part, our data tracking, this is information that we're collecting within our current student information systems. This is wholly internal with Northeast. This is not shared outside of Northeast. I want to make sure that's differentiated from the information that we're sharing with Bear County. They're getting aggregate data that's masked only. We are not providing any individualized student data to them. They're only receiving like holistic aggregate numbers. And that's only related to the services that are provided. We utilize our Power BI system, which I think you've all seen some of the dashboards maybe presented in the past. This allows us to be able to have a working dashboard for our counselors and for Rose and Carrie and myself to be able to look at our district clusters as a whole, to be able to identify students that we want to target for this program. And we're in the final stages of our custom data platform. What this is going to do is house our work so that we're able to extract data from it, have it highlighted within the Power BI to show a much cleaner, kind of nicer looking format so that we can present that to Bexar County, but also present it to you as we're making progress and as we're hitting our benchmarks with regards to our attendance and discipline referrals that are decreasing in the future and our lower recidivism rates. So this is our current budget, highlighted in green. I will say that we have broken it up into year 1, year 2, year 3. That's pretty standard for a typical grant cycle. However, though, this is a very flexible grant because it basically gives us a term of expiration, which is the end of the grant. When once the grant ends, we should have all the funds expended by that point. We can front load the funds, we can back load the funds. It really is based on our activities that we're looking at. We're in the process of, because right now it looks like our funding is pretty low, like we haven't spent enough money, which is pretty scary for a grant manager, especially at a year 1. We definitely want to make sure we're capping it out each year, but when it talks about when we can have all those funds expended, some of these are big lifts and some of them are not. So a majority of it's going to be salaries. At the end of the year 3, we'll have our system, our data system built. We'll have 3 years of TChat, the services that they're providing with our dedicated staff members. And each of these funds, like I mentioned, they roll from year to year with the final deadline of that 3rd year. As long as we're keeping pace with regards to our meetings with the county and we get them up to date as to what our activities are, they're very pleased with our system so far because they feel that we're doing something much different than other districts are, which is we're making this institutional with regards to how we integrate this work with our other pieces in our departments, making this where it's longitudinal and it will be effective past the grant expiration time. The 2 items that are indicated in orange here, those are the $240,000 is what the board has approved for the TChat, or very specific dedicated folks for TChat. That has not been billed to us yet. That will probably come at the end of the year because they're still in the process of hiring. They're very selective and it's very difficult to hire counseling staff, LPCs, to do after-hours work and weekend work. So they have one hired currently. They have another one that, well, maybe I shouldn't say this in public. They have another one that they're looking at, and maybe 2 others that are right behind them. So we're looking at a total of 3.6 FTEs. And what we're hoping that our partnership with TChat is going to build a system with TChat so that it'll be a complementary system to us. After the year 3, this might be something that TChat funds on its own to provide back to our district and other districts. That's not a promise, but that's what we're hoping for. And then the $100,000 that is also noted in orange, that is for our data platform. We are in the process of being billed for that as well, but we have not been given a final ticket on that, but we were working with MIS to get the final piece put together, so it may not come to that, and this might be something where we back in something else with regards to, we have extra funds to look at to do something else with that. It's just not been as expensive as we thought it would be.
Okay, so the core activities that this grant is serving right now is we have district safe and healthy counselors. There are 2 counselors that were hired as a district safe and healthy counselors that are really doing the majority of the work in this grant, in addition to the social worker that was also hired. So we target, what they are doing is they gathered data at the beginning of the year and targeted certain students that need more specific intervention. So they have the name of their groups. They're going in and doing small groups with these students. And so they have named the group Fit Me after the grant, Fit Mind, Fit Self, Fit Future. They currently have about 50 students participating in these groups. And the newly onboarded social worker has already supported about 30 families. the team and campus staff have been referring students and families to TCHAT Plus, and groups have started. So this is where we are right now. It took them, I guess we started groups in December is when they started small groups, and these small groups require, let me just go back up through there. So your district safe and healthy counselors are the people that are running the groups. There are 2 counselors that are running the groups, and then your social worker is working with referral agencies outside of the school district, as well as with all students that go through the DAP that are going to alternative high school or elementary. They are able to do a survey with the social worker on what other needs they might have. Even if it's family needs, that she's able to provide resources in the community that can help those families. And then TCHAT Plus is helping our families, students and families can do outside counseling after hours and in the class, in the actual school. They're actually coming in to do face-to-face, because typically TCHAT is a virtual program. So TCHAT Plus is allowing those counselors that they are hired, the LPCs, to come onto the campus to work with these students that have been identified. So the Fit Me groups, it's parent consent only. It's required for all small groups, it's parent consent. They have small sizes. It's usually 6 to 8 students at the most within the group. And then all the counselors in the district, your campus, your school counselors on each campus, as well as the district safe and healthy counselors, all have received training and are using the solution-focused framework. What they are doing is helping students to create goals to help them make better decisions, make better choices, or help them to understand how the choices that they're making affect what the outcomes are of their decisions. So they're helping students find and build their strengths, and they're promoting skills for responsible decision-making and increase empathy and positive behaviors. So this is what the goals of those groups are. And how they determined what students they were going to pull into these groups was by using data on discipline, attendance, teacher referrals. So these students that as counselors, we see students on a regular basis, some of them that have come quite often or have more needy, more needy requirements or more intervention. Those are the students that are being referred to for these small groups. And the solution focused is just a counseling practice that certified school counselors are trained in. And part of the solution focus framework is how we design and conduct those small groups. It's how we operate that in helping students to create goals and make better choices.
So where are we at right now, and what have we done so far? We've hired all our district staff. I'll tell you, it has not been easy trying to find, the level that we want to be able to be integrated with our alternative kiddos that are coming through PPS, and also ones that are willing to work with multiple campuses and multiple principals and other counselors, and trying to find those multi-tools, as kind of some of these folks are. TCHAT, our service agreements, they're onboarding the TCHAT counselors at the moment. Our groups are up to speed for our first 4 campuses and additional support for Clear Spring. Our social worker is sitting in with our families during the disciplining conferences that are taking place in our office. I'll tell you just anecdotally, what we've seen so far is that the parents are extremely receptive. Now, some parents don't need any assistance. They're good. They're saying, I don't need any extra help. The ones who need it really do need it. And it's not that the campuses weren't offering it. This is at a point in time where they're in crisis with their kid, and they're trying to figure out, what do I do next? We have parents that are just somewhat lost, and they need to have someone there to be their North Star, kind of help them navigate through our system, but also the other complications that are happening, because we know discipline sometimes is a symptom of other things that are going on at home. And this is the greatest opportunity to be able to help affect some support and some change in their home with the parent while they're at the most receptive point, to be able to help them if they need to get WIC started, if they need to get Medicaid started, if they need to get referrals to either TCHAT Plus, TCHAT, or outside family counseling, because they know that there's other mental health things going on in the home. We've been very lucky to have this partnership with TCHAT, and our counselors are all well versed in the referral process. But this one point where they finally reached a breaking point in the family, they made that decision to take the next step and get some help, because this one incident has happened, sometimes to the extreme level where everybody's attention has now been garnered. So And then the data platform that I mentioned, I just think it's super important that we have a system that we build that is built within our system that integrates with all the different systems that are within. I know it sounds kind of redundant, but when you think about all the different things that we do here, if it's school choice, employee child transfers, all these different apps have to talk to each other. And if we buy something from the outside, we have a continuing license fee, but we also have to have these different languages talk to each other. They have to have FTP folders that bound, like it gets complicated. So if we have something that's already integrated, it just makes a lot of our lives easier on a daily basis.
Okay, so in future considerations beyond the Bell Counseling, this is a summer program that we offer our district safe and healthy counselors. Will be offering for students that need that support during the summer months. They can't go those 2 months without checking in with the counselor, or they need assistance. So they started this last year, piloted a program last year, and we plan to continue it this year. It again will require parent permission, and it is also it's individual, and they also do group as well. So it's goal oriented. They transfer skills from summer to support them to the school year. So it's those students making sure that the skills that they've learned in the groups earlier in the year continue through the summer, and they're able to continue using those in the fall. They're also we are also looking at having a leadership focused on these groups, where students will have some older peers that are working with the younger students to help with that skill building as well.
I think one of the most important pieces here with the leadership component is that when you have kids who have been through discipline and they've experienced some behavior issues themselves, when you provide them with opportunities for leadership, even though they never thought they would ever be in that role, when they finally they assume that role, or they feel like somebody believes in them enough to take that role, we have, I guess you say anecdotally and also holistically, we're going to have some institutional change for some of those kiddos. I've witnessed it before with all the years of working with at-risk kiddos. I know it's going to work with this as well. So it's really how we build that. These kids are excited to come to these groups. The teachers have started asking questions about what's going on in the group. How do I add more kids to it? It is an opportunity for them to feel that they're a part of a group. They're not by themselves. Isolation is a big piece of discipline because now you've isolated yourself from your peers, and now you're with other peers that are from other campuses. When you go to an alternative center, those peers are like, now you start building a community when you're part of these groups. So what their intent is to build these groups and then hand them off to the campus counselors so that they can continue on after we move on to the next few campuses that we have to target for our clusters. And with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
When you build these groups, do you go back and make sure that the counselors that you put in charge of these groups are following your protocols and everything else? Do you go and observe and make sure things are still on track? Because things can derail pretty quickly.
The district safe and healthy counselors, they check in pretty much daily with Ms. Trejo. However, we also meet weekly to talk about their students that they're seeing. These groups are 8 week long, and one of them does them twice a week, the other one does them once a week, depending on the campus. It was based on the campus decision, but they're definitely monitored, and we discuss the students and their caseloads. There is a pre-survey to the group, and there's also a post-survey as well, so we can see the growth of what the student basically has learned in that experience.
Is there any way that in the future we can start seeing the results of this? Maybe
Absolutely.
You don't have to give, of course, obviously no names or anything like this, but successes.
Yes.
So that, because I know that in my community I've had a lot of hesitancy. People are feeling that this mental health grant is a gateway to the state coming in and perhaps taking their kid. These are very real fears, and it's
absolutely,
so these are things that we need to address, because I would never want somebody to not be able to take advantage of these services because there's fear in the family. This could lead to something negative.
Mm-hmm.
So is there, have you heard this? Have you been able to address these issues with parents?
When the counselors go onto the campus, first of all, and identified the students that they wanted to work with, they met with the campus counselor, the school counselor, and they went through the list and they determined which students were best fit for a group. And then at that point, the district safe and healthy counselors reach out to the parents and speak to the parent about what what they're being offered, basically, in terms of being part of a group and what the advantages are, the benefits of it are. And so the parent then has the decision to allow or not for that student to be part of the group. And I will tell you, all the students that received permission slips, only 2 out of those roughly 50 did not participate. So, and we have a really good, like Mr. Shoesmith said, that we are getting great feedback from the students. They're so excited to go to group, and the teachers are like, what are you doing with my kids? They're coming back, and they're so excited, and, you know, they're behaving, and they're using whatever, I guess, different strategies that they've been taught in group. So we've heard the successes, but yes, we will definitely have data to bring back to you at some point.
And parents are highly involved in the process.
Absolutely.
It is something that we do on the front end, and we'll continue to do, because that's the most important piece. Number one, it's not just for the consent as well, but this is a holistic piece that we're doing. We want to work with the family, because it's discipline, like I mentioned, isn't just the kiddo. It's a symptom of other things that may be going on. And wherever that path leads us, we want to be sure that the family's included with that.
And T-Chat Plus also does that. They bring parents in. They can bring the parents in as part of the session, as well as they can work with families. Or then UT is, you can also refer through UT. They can get other services for the family.
Oh, very nice.
It's a great resource as long as we can get the word out and let parents know exactly what it is, and so that they know that it's a benefit to their child.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I just want to say that I think y'all are doing amazing, life-changing work, and I deeply thank you for your commitment to our students and to our district. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
And I wanted to just say thank you for stating that the parents are a huge part of that. It's very important that our community understands that this is not a substitute for parental guidance, but a method to bring families together and work together. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the, we use the word sustainable on different things, and you say after year 3, we want this to be a sustainable program. What does that look like beyond year 3, I guess?
So I think the most difficult part of it, sorry, I was just trying to get out, I feel like this is like hot over here, so I'm just trying not to get a suntan while I'm sitting here. The sustainable piece, it's important for us to be able to, like the systems, like the computer, the software, if we have that already front-loaded, so we've paid for all the programmers to build it into the system, then it's not something we have to have a continuous payment for. The staffing piece is going to be likely the one thing that we have to go out and look for additional funds. If it's, Bear County's talked about another cycle of the grant possibly funded through them, or if it's we need to go out for additional funding through another source, through other grants that we can get from the federal government or from the state. There's tons of Victims of Crimes Act grants out there that we can probably access because of the families and the trauma that they've experienced. That might be something we could be that would be applicable to our work as well. So
Is this one of those that the success of the current grant can help fuel
absolutely
funds for continuing this program, I guess?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Couple questions. First off, thank you all for putting this together. I think by presenting this, you've now helped actually get the word out a
Yes.
little bit for those that view this, and they can go, oh, understand it a little bit better. I had a question, similar to Mr. Byers. So after year 3, the $400,000 per year for the employees, that's the piece that will not be funded. Obviously, if we build the software, we will own the software programming, but that's going to be the key funding piece for year 3. Okay. Because without those individuals, though, the program really doesn't work, obviously.
Correct.
They're facilitating all of these things. Okay, so that was one piece of it. You answered my question about the data, so it is mask and aggregate data that goes down to Bear County. Everything else stays here, all the personal.
yes, sir.
If a parent doesn't want to give that family demographic, are they denied services? Because I know you say you collect on the front end. I'm assuming most families that say yes to it are going to probably provide that. But if for some reason you say, well, I don't want to share all my family information, will they be denied services or in the small groups?
No, they're not going to be denied services.
Okay.
They're going to still receive services. Their data just won't be included.
Okay, I figured that was the case. And these T-Chat Plus individuals that are now going to be a district contract employees or a district employees, is that correct?
So they have contractor badge. They are still UT Health Science Center
Okay.
employees. We have, it's just as if it's our same agreement that we have with T-Chat. It's just we're paying for them to be dedicated to the program.
Okay,
So
But they may also, because I know our staff also has access to CCHAD, is that correct as well? Not tied to this program,
No,
but if
sir.
an employee, they have different mental
students
health
only-
services?
It's students only.
It's only students.
Okay, CCHAD's for students only?
Yes, sir.
But the employees also have a mental health?
Correct.
Access if necessary?
Employees' access is through ComPsych.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay, so they are different than
They're
CCHAD
different.
is just for this, okay, that's why I wanted to clarify, because I wasn't clear in my head. Thank you for that, Dr. Mike, I appreciate it. And the last question, and this is kind of what spurred it in, when even last May is, and I know y'all referenced the SHAC in 28004, but in the Ed Code, it's C2, it talks about policy, procedures, or strategies and curriculum, and it talks about comprehensive health, mental health, safe and healthy school environment. So I think this program's great, and it sounds like it's really off to a good start, but I think we, as a board, to be fully compliant, need to still should go through the SHAC, Safe and Healthy Schools, because by law, they're supposed to make a recommendation to us on any program that ties to mental health concerns with policies, procedures, and strategies. This is a 3-year strategy. And that was a way I didn't clarify last May when I brought it up. I knew about the money source, but I just want to make sure that I think they're going to look at it and go, this is a great program, and actually maybe help spread the word. But so us as a board are full compliance, I'd like y'all to consider looking at it. We can make a motion to make sure that we're in compliance. I think we're required to run this through the SHAC and bring it back to the board. Not saying stop anything, of course, whatever the trustees think, but our job is to make sure that we have the full compliance piece, which is kind of what got me thinking about it when this first came up last year. So sounds like a great program. Sounds like y'all got a really good plan and initiative. So thanks for doing that, and the briefing was great. That's all the questions I have, Madam President.
Can you clarify for me what you just said that you think needs to go through SHAC? What was it?
Yes, ma'am. It's 2C of 28004, any policy, procedure, strategies, and curriculum. And it lists several categories, including mental health concerns, and it specifically lists in 2C, F, G, and H, school health services, including mental health services, comprehensive school counseling program under Section 3305, and safe and healthy school environment, which sounds like this all ties into that stuff directly. I mean, you literally call them safe and healthy school counselors.
Of course.
And so I believe that that requires it to go through the SHAC. That's their duties include recommending those things. Obviously, y'all have already built in that, but it'd really be a chance for them to have awareness, and then probably bring it back and say, yes, it's a great program, because it sounds like it's a really good program. So I don't want to do that, but I want to make sure that have that legal compliance piece. I believe we need.
You said 2C.
C, F, G, and H are the particular ones. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I can give you a copy afterwards, too, if you want it. You can take it.
Well, I've got 28.004 right here.
Okay.
But I was trying to find 2C.
See, the local school health advisory council duties include recommending, then 2 is policies, procedures, strategies, and curriculum. Talks about obesity, cardiovascular, and mental health concerns, including through the coordination of, and then, you get A, B, C, D, E, F, school
Yeah,
health services.
Okay. So, because I thought it was just curriculum. So can we get Mr. Lopez just to confirm that that needs to go to SHAC? Because I thought we had discussed this before, and he said that it did not, unless it was.
I think it was something different related to 28004, because that was the reason it's policies, procedures, and strategies. If you can give us a written opinion or a firm opinion with some background on it, that it's not, because this literally sounds like that. That's what piqued my thing, because it's a 3-year plan, it's strategies, you've got procedures in place, you've got policies you've enacted to make all of this happen. So and it's tied to mental health. So that's why I think so. We can ask Mr. Lopez to do that, but some specificity on why he says it does or does not, because I believe it's pretty clear it does require it.
Okay, so that would be my suggestion, is that we get him to give us an opinion on that.
I'm good with that.
And it sounds like in the meantime, there's some things that they're already sort of in a good faith effort in that vein.
Yeah.
Trying to, like with speakers, curriculum, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just for us to make sure we're meeting that little piece of the puzzle. But yeah, no, it sounds like a great off to a great start. So thank you, and great information for the entire community to have now about this, because it is important for those that have the need, or maybe will be identified. They can kind of know what they're getting. So thank y'all for all the work and everybody that's doing it every day.
Yeah, thank you very much for putting together this presentation and for doing all of that. So at this point, I would say it's no action other than referring this to getting Mr. Lopez.
Mr. Lopez, get a legal opinion on clarification on that.
So no action at this point, okay. Item C, operations. 1, possible action regarding approval to lease NEISD groundwater. Dr. Mitchell.
Madam President, Board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guest. Operations brings to you for your approval. We wanted to bring this, SAWS approached us about leasing back some of our water rights so that they can pump. We have 5 wells in the district. It'd be of no cost to the district. They won't go onto our grounds to do anything. It's about $15,900 a year for a 5-year contract.
Does anyone have any questions about this?
And it looks like we got an update or a clarification.
That was my one question, the date, so
Yeah.
I think we got that. I was like,
Yeah.
the year in the past, yeah.
So just for purpose of everybody, we got the dates that were in our packet started last January, a year ago, through 2027. Now it's going to be January 1st of this year, 2024, to December 31st, 2028. And then they also misspelled Northeast, so that got corrected as well.
Yeah.
And then also on the action item page there, under administrative recommendation, it says to Edwards Underground Water District. That should be SAWS, and we would make that change and bring it to you.
Okay.
That's who we got our rights from that we're leasing to them.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, big question. Okay, matter of fact, almost fell out of my chair when I was reading this lease agreement because it's all good for them. None of it's good for us. And I was looking at it and it sounds really kind of interesting because I started calculating the numbers and it's a ripoff, frankly. Because what they're talking about is 16.461 acre feet per annum water rights. Okay, that sounds pretty nominal, no big deal, right? Well, that calculates out to 5,363,832.38 US liquid gallons. That's a heck of a lot of water. And frankly, water is precious. It's, matter of fact, going to be one of the most precious commodities that we have in what we have to offer. And these people, and I also then went on their site and I started looking at it. That nets them a total of $87,397.97. If you calculate that in, that would be if it was going to a single household and somebody broke a line or something like that, and they happened to dump it. And they're giving us $15,000 and something, some change for this. And I'm looking at it, this is going to be worth a lot of money in the future, especially if the water starts to disappear, as everybody keeps telling us it will. And frankly, I think we're going to need it for our community, our schools. And I'm really concerned about this. Does anybody, can anybody explain this to me, why we're doing this?
What are we doing with these wells currently?
Nothing.
And do we have any ability to pump out of them and use it for our own purposes?
No, we do not. Go ahead. To bring Dr. Lanford up.
I guess a little background or history or context of these, what the wells
Sure.
are.
Madam President, board members, Dr. Micah, and executive staff. Currently, as Dr. Mitchell correctly said, we have 5 wells. 4 of them are capped. One of them sits at Cerna and it's decommissioned. So we do nothing with this water right now. It just sits in Edwards Aquifer. So as Dr. Mitchell said, we do absolutely nothing with this water. We don't, we can't pump it. We can't do anything with it. So right now, this is a foray into leasing the water back. Certainly this is not a permanent situation. We'll review this, at a later date. So we're not giving up permanently. These water rights belong to the district. As pointed out in Texas Education Code, that's why we have to come to you. We were offered this opportunity, so it comes to you, for your approval. You certainly don't have to approve it, but it's an opportunity for the district to, generate some revenue over something that just sits there.
And do you know what their overall intent, just to hold leases? Is that kind of what they're
Yes.
trying to do to kind of keep themselves
Correct.
and net positive at some point, I guess, if they need to?
I think so.
Okay.
I guess, by Curtis, so this is Edwards Aquifer water. These are access points, basically, that are on district property, which therefore we own the water and mineral rights to because it's district property. Is that correct? But
Right.
it's Edwards Aquifer water. It's not like sectioned off little stuff. It's part of the aquifer.
Right, right. This
So
is
they're,
just,
they're tapping, they want to have easier access to the water and more convenient access points.
but this is just, they're not going to access
Right. They just-
anything through our property. This would be just like if if they went out to Canyon Lake and took a bucket.
They just want a quantity amount that they're agreeing to pay us for.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's just water rights, right?
Correct.
It's the water rights themselves because we
Right.
technically own the water rights.
Yeah, because I'm familiar with this from another situation, and they actually just do annual leases and then renegotiate the price every year. I'm just curious why we're considering a 5-year, and was that?
We inquired if we could do year to year, and they said they just do 5 years at SAWS.
Are they going to be making any improvements to these wells?
No, these are capped wells.
So they wouldn't, so there's
They're
no
not going on our property.
benefit. There's really no benefit. I mean, $15,000, that's gone in a second, but that water that we're giving them the rights to, I don't know, this doesn't sound right to me. Somebody's got to tell me something or explain to me why we would even consider in this day and time to give up 5 million gallons of water. Because at some point, we could actually go back in and uncap those wells if we needed to.
Actually, we'd have to re-drill.
It's not that difficult.
So,
Well, I
so
guess-
Ms.
the question-
Villarreal,
but
your-
Mrs. well,
your
hold on.
question was, why is it here with you? By law, you own the property of the district as a trustee, so you're so this was something brought to us, so we're going to bring it to you all for exactly this thing. You don't have to approve it.
I'm back to Mrs. Grone's point. I like the point she was making, though, year to year or whatever, because if you just think about inflation the last couple of years, that $15,000 every year becomes less valuable, quite frankly, by 2, 3, 5, whatever the inflation rate is. So I don't know if there's a discussion amongst us that maybe, obviously, if it's, I'm not going to call it free revenue source for us, it is, obviously, we have the rights, but also to give up for 5 years at this rate, that may not be a wise move. A shorter term one, like a year, like you were talking about, Mr. Grone, makes more sense to me than just saying 5 or nothing. Maybe we go back and have a conversation and do a year to year or a built-in automatic increase, just assume a 3% inflation rate, something. But to me, just doing a 5-year with that, I think we need a little bit more detail before we say yes to it, is my opinion.
I know, and I'm also looking at the discrepancy in the numbers here, because I went back on their calculator, to determine, and I'm sitting here going, why would we be giving up one of the most precious commodities that we could own for this, and then let them lock us in, but I'm reading also the lease agreement. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, I don't pretend to be, but it sounds like everything is on their side. Everything goes towards the leasee or the leaseor, or leasee, the people that are doing this, and it seems like they are trying to tie us up in a knot, and if we move one particular way, they've got us, and then they can sue us. And I don't know, I would like some clarification on this, and also to see if we could, if we're going to do this, negotiate better terms, because this is terrible.
I am not a fan of the 5-year. I do know that the price that they were doing was about the same as what I'm familiar with in another situation. So I think the dollar amount was about
Reasonable, but maybe,
reasonable.
I think maybe
But
renegotiate the term length.
Right.
And/or
I
considerations.
mean,
Yeah.
if this is something that we want to pursue, that would be my opinion, is that I would not do it for 5 years.
I would concur with that
I do too.
as well. I would say maybe let's look at it, but have some discussions, or obviously the staff, to see if we can do something a little bit different with the length of the saws, and get a little bit more clarity. I agree with that 5 years seems too long.
Do we have did they give any documentation where they've done this with other agencies? Because maybe the 5-year versus a 1-year is with a public, kind of like a public-to-public organization kind of thing, and not private to public or public to private.
Good point,
And
maybe.
so
But then in their lease agreement, they're talking about how if they have a vote and they decide they don't have enough money, that they could actually terminate the lease agreement.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, everything is geared towards them. There's nothing that really protects us. And then if we do something that they don't like, encumber or whatever on their, then they can turn around and sue us. There was a clause in there about that.
Well, that's standard contract language. It's always going to have something to do with, well, there we go.
They're going to shut our water off next.
Yeah.
They're listening. They're listening. No, that's CPS. Not sorry.
Different purveyor.
That's fun.
It's windy.
Oh, the wind.
Anyway.
It's windy.
I
Maybe
think it's
it-
worth looking at.
Maybe it's storming.
I think the price, it's $15,000.
The answer we were given is the financial projections. It's just easier for them to go 5 years. So that's why they didn't.
But look, obviously, from what I hear anyway, y'all aren't a fan of a 5 years.
Sure.
So we can go back and say, look, our board wants to do it a year, and they can say, well, we're not going to do it. Okay, then we'll come back to you guys and say they don't want to do it. And
I would make a motion that we request the district staff to go explore alternative length lease options with SAWS and bring it back to the board for consideration of other options.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank y'all.
I'm sorry, who was the second? I was looking down, thank you.
Okay, item D, consent. 1, business services. A, over 50,000 purchases. 2, operations. A, NEISD Camp Henson Rappel Tower Project Bid Award Approval. 3, minutes from December 2023. 4, end of consent. Do I have a board member wishing to pull an item from consent? Okay, do I have a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Let the record reflect, that might be the first time we've never pulled something from consent.
I know, silence was deafening. Thank you, Mr. Byer, good point.
I did raise my head and look.
are you wanting to go back now to just do it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Item 13, reports. A, interim financial and management reports. B, awarded bid reports. C, federal grants report. D, donation reports. E, open records request. Those have been provided for you. Item 14, discussion, possible action regarding board member requests for items to be placed on a future agenda and our request for reports from the administration. Do I have a board member wishing for something?
Yes. I would like to see the unresolved maintenance issues on SMD 3 and the timeline to fix these issues. And I'd like that over the past 2 years, and anything that's carried over from 1 year to the next, I'd like to see it, and then get a time frame on how that's going to be resolved and when it's going to be resolved.
Are you aware of unresolved maintenance issues?
I became aware of some unresolved maintenance issues at one of my schools. And I call him my community angel. Matter of fact, the guy is amazing, and he's really involved in our schools.
Oh, the speaker.
And yes, and I just want to make sure that I can look him in the eyes and say, we are resolving these issues. And because I know there has to be a maintenance log somewhere. And immediately when I was made aware of it, I made Dr. Micah aware of it. And of course, he got in his car and he immediately went and drove over there and started the process of getting things resolved. It was like within just a few days, everything was taken care of, and there's only one thing left to take care of.
So then what is it that you're asking?
I would like to see, because this apparently, these issues had been submitted multiple times on a wood pile that was growing some kind of branches over it and things like this. And I would like to make sure that we don't have more of that maybe principals are turning in and they're being pretty much ignored. Or maybe it's just being put off or shunted off to the side. I just need to make sure that I can look my constituents in the eyes and say, we are taking care of that. Because I know once we get that information, I know Dr. Mike is going to take care of it, because that's just how he rolls. So I just want to make sure that I'm aware of it, and then I can say, yes, I'm aware of this, Mr. Cardenas, I'm aware of it, and it's being resolved now. And I can give him a timeline and a time frame as to the issues and how they're being resolved and what what the status would be.
So, Ms. Villarreal, is that something that you want as a presentation or as a report, or is something, if I can gather this information, something that I just send to all of you?
Just, it's sent to all of us.
Okay,
And
so I
that
can just
way-
send as an email as soon as I
Yes.
can acquire it, I can send you, and
Yes,
and then
that'd
if
be
you
great.
want more, then you can email me back
Right.
and say, hey, I'd like.
Right.
Okay.
I just, I know it has to be pretty simple to pull it up,
I-
probably take 2 seconds.
I don't know, I've never done what you're at, but what I can do is look and see, and then you and I can visit, and I can
Right.
get out to everybody, and then we can
Right.
kind of keep going through it.
Yeah, that's
does
way.
that work?
Yes, that's absolutely perfect.
Are we assuming these issues are only in single-member District 3, or should we be looking at the district as a whole?
Yeah,
or
so what I'm gonna try to
trying figure out where
do,
this is leading.
yeah,
Okay.
Ms. Huey, that's a good question. What I'm gonna do, if you're okay with it, I'm gonna look at Ms. Villarreal's, single-member district and see and then we'll start branching it out from there. Does that make sense? Because if I try to
Hopefully
bite
it's
it
not
all
too much
off
of a
at once,
workload that's
I think
gonna-
it's gonna
yeah.
be too much. I think it's better to start,
Okay.
small and then start widening its scope as
And
we
I'd offer
go.
Dr. Micah too, if it's easier to do by high school cluster, because I know some of our single-member districts overlap. Whatever's the easiest way to
Yeah.
generate, start with, obviously, Ms. Villarreal's, and then
Yeah.
as time allows, it'd be nice in case there's significant
Yep.
backlogs, where we at least have awareness on it.
Yep,
Thank
yep.
you.
I think what Mr. Cardenas, he just wants to know that things are being addressed. And I want to be able to look at any of my members in my district and say, yes, we're aware of this. This is the timeline. This is when it's going to be fixed. And I'm sure that there are unresolved issues in all of our districts. I know that. I'm sure. And I think if we have that information and we have a timeline and a time frame, so when your people call you and they want to sit down with you and they're upset, then over things, you have an answer for them.
And I just want to, and I visited with Ms. V right before the meeting, but I just want to remind all of you, back in the fall, you approved a facility audit that's currently underway. And so in May, correct, Mr. Villarreal? In May, it should be complete, and we will bring it to you to have a discussion about all district facilities. So it is an outside vendor, it is not us. I want an unbiased, bring it and let us take a look at it, and then I will be tapping each one of you for some folks to sit on a committee, start working through it, start looking at, what's important, what's not, and make some decisions, or at least bring some recommendations, I should say, to you all. You're the decision makers.
Okay, does this need a motion and second and vote? Okay.
It's a report that's
I just-
not
I'm just-
already,
Yeah.
so yes, it does need a motion and second because you
Okay.
don't have the data.
So I'll make my motion.
Well, I'm
okay.
asking, this is not something that's already a document. You're
Well,
gonna have to-
here's what I would say. Go ahead and vote. In that way, then, if it's not, you've already, then I'm not coming back because you didn't act. Just act. And then if I have it, great. If I don't, I'll still do it. And then it's just easier that way instead of being caught up.
Could you give us an idea for some wording that would make it appropriate for you to
Yeah,
start
so
this?
why, you want me to give you the
Yeah, give me the
language?
verbiage.
Why don't
Go
you
for
just
it.
give me, why don't you make a motion to provide the last 2 years of, are you listening to all this? Of the last 2 years of maintenance work orders for single-member District 3 and their completion.
Actually,
She's gonna
I'm
say
more
so
interested,
moved.
I want the unresolved issues.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That resolved and, it
Okay.
will cover all of that. Here's what's been done, here's not what's been done, and we'll try to do it that way.
Okay. I make a motion to have a report given to, or would it be a report? A report sent to me, or all of us, on member District 3 and all the maintenance issues over the last 2 years, both resolved and unresolved, and a plan on what we're going to do with those unresolved issues.
Do I have a second?
Second. Yeah, second.
We're going to do it the best we can.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Anything else?
I have one request. If we could get an email update on the Hidden Forest project, I'd appreciate it, please.
That's good, because I think it's coming to you next February.
There you go.
Or in
Well,
February.
if it is,
So
then hold.
I think we're going to be bringing you this February, because,
Okay.
yes, we have been working on it. We've been.
And I know we got an email update in the fall.
Yes, sir.
wanted to
But
make
if
sure.
you all would like, I can just, you don't need
If
to
you're
vote
gonna-
on it. I can just send you an email tomorrow. Would y'all like an update real quick?
If we have
Tomorrow on where we're at?
A quick three
I'm
bullet
just
point
looking. I'll just
email.
send you an email. Yeah.
That's it, very brief.
It's easy. I'll send you one tomorrow.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else? All right, item 15, adjournment, and the time is 8:39